allow me to share with you one of the most diabolical experiments ever conducted. Happened in the 13th century when Frederick II, the Holy Roman Emperor, Fred, was a curious guy, and he wanted to find out what language children would speak if they grew up never being spoken to. He had a hunch, he had a theory, that it would be German. Because when you're an egomaniac, some things are just obvious. So you know what the psycho emperor did? He took babies from their mothers at birth and placed them in a controlled environment. Very controlled. In a sense, he unwittingly did what is now called a controlled study, but with a cruel twist. Group 1 consisted of all the babies born in his kingdom who received normal care children needed. The controlled group was placed in the care of nurses who were given specific and strict instructions. First, the nurses were never, under any circumstances, to speak in the baby's presence. Children were to be raised in silence, allowing them to grow up to speak their natural language. But King Frederick understood that if the nurses began to bond with the children, the temptation to speak would be greater. So he gave a second rule. The nurses were not allowed to touch the infants. Wooden utensils were made for changing, washing, and feeding the babies, since flesh-on-flesh contact was forbidden. So what language did these babies, these children, grow up to speak? Well, the Italian historian Salmabine informs us in one chilling line: they could not live without touch. In other words, they could not live without affectionate touch. The result of the experiment was that all of the babies died for want of human touch. Modern medical science calls this phenomenon failure to thrive. We now know that premature babies that are touched periodically gain body weight more rapidly and have a higher survival rate than those that receive no touch. This raises a simple and provocative question. What is a human being exactly? What are you? What am I? We might more specifically ask a question like this: what is the fundamental power that fuels human flourishing? To answer that question, I want to introduce to you one of the most remarkable scientists of our time, Dr. Dean Ornish. He's best known for his research regarding the reversal of heart disease. Dr. Ornish basically discovered that all you have to do is to reverse heart disease is eat actual food rather than junk food and move your body. Not real groundbreaking revelation, although you wouldn't want to invite him over on your Saturday night party. But that is partly due to the work of Dr. Ornish. He contributed significantly to making the public aware of the importance that diet and exercise play in maintaining good heart health. But Dr. Ornish's first scientific interest, before he began exploring heart disease, was regarding the impact of emotional health on physical health, how the two interacted. He wrote a book that became a New York Times bestseller titled Love and Survival. Now just think of the juxtaposition of those two words, love and survival. In his remarkable book, Dr. Ornish brings to the table a massive amount of research conducted over 20 years, in which he demonstrates that anything that promoted feelings of love and intimacy is healing. Anything that promoted isolation, separation, loneliness, loss, hostility, anger, cynicism, depression, alienation, and related feelings often leads to suffering, disease, premature death. They get this from all causes. In other words, the doctor is explaining that human beings, every one of us, are genetically predispositioned to certain diseases. But if a human being lives in relational environments, home life, work life, social life, that are defined by love and intimacy, that individual is less likely to succumb to those diseases to which they are predisposed. By contrast, those who live in environments of alienation and anger oftentimes experience a more rapid decline in health. They succumb earlier to the diseases to which they are predisposed. Series of studies that Ornish brings to the table are remarkable. Right now, if you and I were to have an encounter this evening, which is not going to happen because of COVID and the restrictions, but let's say that maybe when this is all done, when this whole COVID thing is over, we were to meet, pass each other, and I were to reach out my hand and take yours for a friendly handshake, if in the future handshakes remain a thing. And I give you a gentle squeeze on your shoulder. Both of our resistance to illness is slightly increased. Dr. Ornish has demonstrated scientifically that your white blood cell count will be elevated, as will mine. In our simple literal action, you will be less likely in minutes, hours, maybe days after the encounter to get a cold, the flu, or just about anything else. Incrementally, of course, because handshakes aren't that powerful, but they are powerful to some small degree. In that one experience, if ever so slight a manner, you are better prepared to encounter the onslaught of life, whether they may be simply because of our positive social interaction. It's absolutely remarkable, isn't it? In one study after another, Dr. Ornish proves that, notice his words, the scientific evidence leaves little doubt that love and intimacy are powerful determinants of our health and survival. But Dr. Ornish, the scientist, is baffled by what his research has revealed. He says of love and intimacy, why they have such an impact remains somewhat a mystery. This is a new body of research accumulating over just 20 years or so. And this new data is countering, even contradicting, what science has thought to be true of human beings. It is, in fact, from someone like Dr. Ornish, as well as the scientific community as a whole, a mystery that human beings, which were thought to be wired for self-preservation, actually thrive and flourish more readily when they give of themselves, when they live for others. Dr. Ornish says this is a mystery because it runs counter to the survival of the fittest belief system. Ornish is basically saying we don't know why humans are like this because we really shouldn't be. So Dr. Ornish interviewed 26 of the most smartest people on the planet. These are people who are expert in their fields: psychology, sociology, evolutionary biology. He had one simple question: why are we like this? Why are we human beings so dependent on love and intimacy for our flourishing and survival? When all 26 experts were done giving their response, it all equated to one very simple but profound answer: we don't know. And after the 26 experts weighed in, Ornish reports, mystery remains. No one can fully explain why love and intimacy matter so much. Now let's be very clear about one thing. I know of no scientific, peer-reviewed study that is of any threat to Christian faith. I revel in their discoveries. We merely insist that when science has had its say, there is still more to be said. We don't know, we can't explain it. It doesn't make evolutionary sense. This is, in fact, the big mystery on the table of science, and nobody knows how to make sense of it. We can summarize the research of Dr. Ornish and a lot of other research by viewing human experience as consisting of two basic categories. There is what we might refer to as the malfunction region of human experience, and there is what we might call the optimization region of human experience. In the malfunction region are things like racism, loneliness, isolation, envy, greed, hate, and anger. Science is revealing, for example, that racism causes psychological, emotional, and biological breakdown in the human being who fosters racist beliefs and feelings. Greed as well compromise the well-being of the greedy. Anger chips away at the physical health of the angry. And all of these malfunction factors have something in common. They tend to be focused on self to the exclusion of others, on the self to the exclusion or hurt of others. Now, by contrast, in the optimization region of human experience, we find things like generosity, acceptance, kindness, forgiveness, loyalty, faithfulness, and giving. Hard science is literally demonstrating that if you have a lot of material things, and you simply take some of what you have and give to those who don't have much, you increase your own biological health. If you live in a home which acceptance and forgiveness define the relationships, your mental and physical health will be positively impacted. If your workplace environment is defined by kindness and loyalty, your body will experience an increase of immunity to disease. Things like generosity and faithfulness are healing. Just remaining committed to a person for life and friendship increases your overall well-being. And all of these relational factors in their optimization region have something in common. All of them are characterized by other-centeredness. To the degree that a human being moves from malfunction region, thoughts and feelings and behaviors, into optimization, realization dynamics, biological health increases. All of this is to say something very profound. As Professor Millard J. Erickson has observed, one of two things is true. If reality is fundamentally physical, then the primary force binding it together is electromagnetic. If, however, reality is fundamentally social, then the most powerful constituting force is that which binds person together, namely love. The question here is this: are human beings primarily creatures who are defined by their biology? Or are human beings primarily defined by their relationships? Where science is going rather rapidly is in the direction of defining human beings as, in the words of Dr. Erickson, fundamentally social, and therefore creatures of love. Our first discovery of this Crave seminar is that the secret of human thriving is quite simply to love and be loved. This is a state of existence in which I perceive myself as existing for you, and you perceive yourself as existing for me. In other words, to the degree we live in self-giving love, we flourish as human beings. The ancient King Solomon said it like this: "What a person desires is unfailing love." What each of us craves at the deepest level of our beings is a quality of love that never fails. What we really want, if we were to get in touch with what we really want, is to live in faithful relationships defined by trust and loyalty, and generosity and forgiveness. What we desire more than anything else is to love and be loved.